it's Marley from the Energy Boutique with your energy forecast for Thursday, August 4th. So we have the moon moving out of this Libran energy, going void, of course, around 2:20 a.m., again, Eastern Standard Time. And we will be locking into Scorpio energy 7:47 a.m. Now, anytime that we're moving out of Libran energy and into Scorpio energy, there's definitely a shift. Many people struggle with this shift because we're moving out of the shallow end of the light and fluffy perspective and version that Libra wants our realities to be, to do a deep dive into our emotions, into our psyche with the Scorpio energy. Scorpio energy is water energy. We have to go down to the depths of our emotions and unearth, bring up to the surface some of these shadow elements in our psyche, in our heart space, in our memories that may be blocking us from actually progressing and moving forward. A lot of people get very uncomfortable in the Scorpio energy, and seeing as we're still very much on the Taurus and Scorpio axis of the true nodes, this is definitely going to highlight for us what it is that we still have to work on letting go, especially in our emotions and our memories, what it is that we have to surrender to, what it is that we have to clean out our closet and make space for new elements, new items to actually be put in that position. Scorpio energy is the detective of the zodiac. We have no problem probing, asking the right questions of ourselves, of other people, in order to get down to the nitty-gritty and actually solve some of the problems that we will unearth and uncover while the moon is in Scorpio. It will have flashbacks to eclipse season, because again, the true nodes of the moon are on this Taurus and Scorpio axis. The Taurus and Scorpio axis is about growth. The Scorpio energy is about emotional growth and soul growth, while the Taurus energy is about growth in this physical realm, finding stability in our day-to-day life where routines, relationships, and resources, money matters, worth is concerned. So you best believe that the next couple of days with the moon in Scorpio is going to be a little bit deep, a little bit dark, definitely intense, in order for us to be illuminated to what is blocking us from actually going after our passions and our desires. So here today is actually a very quiet day. We only have 6 different aspects. 4 of those aspects involve the moon. Keep in mind that today we have Mercury, ruler of the mental plane, ruler of information and communication, moving out of this fiery Leo energy and moving into its place of power, into this earthy Virgo energy. If you haven't listened to the astro forecast that I put out for this event in the August's playlist, please go ahead and listen to that. It's going to give you a way better perspective, picture, set up on what it is that we can expect for the next couple of weeks. But we're definitely going to feel the shift in our mental plane. We might be feeling a little bit heavy, a little bit weighted. Again, with the moon in Scorpio, that's adding to the weight, to the heaviness, to the intensity. We just have to kind of acclimatize to this particular energy, which may be a bumpy ride mentally and emotionally for many of us here today. So the very first thing that we got going on, the very last aspect that the moon in Libra is going to make before going void, of course, which always creates a little bit of insecurity, instability, doubts, fear, all of those not so nice thoughts and feelings. The last aspect that the moon in Libra makes is a square. We're getting into the boxing ring and we are fighting it out with Pluto, the great transformer himself. So this is definitely going to highlight for us where it is that we've tried very hard to stay in the shallow end of our shadow. Again, the moon in Libra just wants things to stay light and fluffy. We want to find a middle ground. We want to find that balance point. We want peace. We want harmony, but we do tend to kind of stay in the very light and fluffy mental realm of things while we're in this Libran energy. The Pluto energy, mind you, is retrograde in Capricorn, very focused on power, on control, and where many of us have given that power and control away in our lives. And because of that, found ourselves in some very painful, traumatic circumstances. Now, this particular aspect between the moon and Pluto is really going to show us where it is that we have to move to the deep end of our emotions if we are going to uncover any of these aha moments that will shift our psyche and then our heart space into pushing us into standing up and taking our power and control back. This isn't going to feel good. Never does. This is a boxing ring. A square is a boxing ring. We might start feeling a lot of pain, a lot of trauma, a lot of fear, a lot of second guessing, a lot of obsessive thoughts, a lot of extreme emotions. That is just the name of the game with Pluto. And of course, a square. We need to feel uncomfortable. We need to feel awkward. We need to feel overwhelmed, because that is the only way that our silly human make changes. So it is going to be a pretty tough aspect to navigate. So while the moon is void, again, very shaky, very unstable, very uncertain, lots of doubts. We're starting to speak fear into a lot of our dreams, a lot of our plans. At 2:58 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, mind you, this is when Mercury moves into Virgo. Now, Mercury moving into Virgo, again, listen to the astro forecast, is very analytical. The fact that we are about to move into the moon being in Scorpio, which is the detective that wants to rip apart the psychological makeup of who it is that we are and how it is that we act the way we do and feel the way we do and choose and make decisions the way that we do. We have Mercury in Virgo, who is just focused in on figuring things out. We have to focus in on the nitty-gritty of our mental plane to figure out why we think certain ways and how we can fix problems, and, you know, where it is that we almost have to like tear ourselves down over analyzing ourselves and judging ourselves in order to get down to the nitty-gritty so that we can decide what needs to stay and what needs to go so that we can build things back in a better way. It's going to be super, super freaking intense. So then the moon goes ahead, moves into Scorpio. The very first aspect that the moon in Scorpio makes is a sextile with Mercury, now in Virgo energy. You best believe that our heart and our head are getting on the same page. What are they getting on the same page about? A mission. What is this mission? To get down to the deep, dark, dirty little secrets of our shadow self so that we can figure out how to release this energy, blocking us from actually moving on, blocking us from having a healthy, supportive, encouraging mindset, blocking us from holding on to the good energies, because of course the Scorpio energy would prefer to hang on to the bad energies, because the bad energies is how we transform. The Scorpio energy is the alchemist. We're able to sit in the pain. We're able to turn that to power. We're able to sit in the darkness. We're able to turn that to light. This is a whole thing, but we have to do a deep dive. The moon in Scorpio is saying, okay, let's do a deep dive in our emotions, in our soul self, in our unconscious self. Mercury in Virgo's over here saying, well, let's do a deep dive in our psyche, in our mental plane, in our thoughts, in our ideas, in our narrative. Let's see where our emotions and our headspace is creating these blockages for us that's really preventing us from getting on with it. This is going to feel very heavy to a lot of people. Even though it's a positive aspect, we are on a new mission to uncover the details of our inner workings so that we can essentially zoom in on what the problem may be and eliminate that problem, alchemize it into a source of power instead of keeping us in a wounded state of pain. The moon in Scorpio is going to make a very beautiful aspect with Neptune. Neptune is retrograde in Pisces energy. We got some water on water action happening here. This is going to jack up our intuition, our perception of subtle energies. We are going to have new psychic abilities come online. When I say psychic abilities, I mean being in touch with your own emotions, being in touch with the energies around you, being in touch with the intuitional insight coming in your mental plane and in your heart space, being in touch with your dreams, with your passions, with your desires. This is all amping up. This is a beautiful energy, and it's going to remind us of the dream, of the vision, on what it is that we are doing, all of this deep, dark shadow work in order to eliminate the blockages so that we can get on with actually living in a very, very beautiful reality if we could just get out of our own way. Here's where things get a little bit funky. Mercury is going to be bumping into Chiron, the wounded healer. We have Mercury in its place of power in Virgo, ready to just rip things apart in order to get down to the primary root cause of why we think and feel the way that we do, why we behave the way that we do. And with this interaction with Chiron, the wounded healer, who is retrograde in Aries, you best believe that we are moving deep within ourselves, deep within our wounds. Now, one thing I will say, this is likely going to trigger a very negative narrative. We are not going to be positive. We are not going to be optimistic. We are not going to be hopeful or helpful. We have to sit in the funk. Now, keep in mind, Mercury in Virgo is very critical, very judgmental of oneself. We have to tear ourselves down to get rid of the crap, to recognize what is left for us to rebuild. Chiron, being the wounded healer in this particular aspect, which is not a positive one, means that we're more focused on the wounds than we are of the healing. This could put us in a position to A, have some very poisoned thoughts about ourselves, okay? B, put us in a verbal situation where we're projecting some of our doubts, insecurities, and fears onto other people. We could be very hurtful in our communications, in our conversations. We really need to be cautious about this. Again, listen to the astro forecast with Mercury moving into Virgo, and really just keep in mind the cons of this energy. We're rigid, we're too factual, we're non-emotional, we're very matter of fact, and sometimes that can hurt. And we could be, which is the opposite of what the strengths are of Mercury in Virgo. Mercury in Virgo is about precision, but because this is a negative aspect with Chiron, the wounded healer, we could be not very precise at all with our thoughts, with our words, careless, if you will. And of course, when we are careless with our own mental narrative, and careless with our words and the way that we express ourselves, we could potentially be hurting people that we have no business in hurting. Okay, so we have to be very mindful of how this energy could manifest for us. Now, the last aspect that we have is the moon in Scorpio, making a very interesting aspect with Jupiter, who is retrograde now in Aries energy. So one thing that the moon in Scorpio and Jupiter in Aries have in common is that Scorpio and Aries energy have a co-ruler of Mars, the god of war. That's not really going to help us in this situation. This particular aspect is highlighting for us where it is that we do have an opportunity to make a different choice, where it is that we do have an opportunity to actually put into action what it is that we've already realized. But let me be very clear to you. Our emotions are about to get extreme. Our anger, our frustrations, our irritabilities will be coming out of the closet, will be unearthing themselves, will be rising to the surface in order for us to take a good look on where it is that they even live at in our heart space and in our head space. Jupiter magnifies everything. Jupiter wants us to grow. He wants us to improve. He wants us to progress moving forward to get to a point of receiving our abundance and blessings. But right now, all he's doing is magnifying the emotions that we're currently sitting in. And right now, we're sitting in a funk. mostly because Mercury just popped off with Chiron, but also because the moon in Scorpio, like I said, needs to live in the extremes of the shadow work, of the pain, of the trauma, of the suffering, in order for us to shine a bright light on that darkness, for us to alchemize it, for us to turn that pain into power. Is it going to feel good? No. Is it necessary? Yes. Why? Because we need to be uncomfortable. We need to be overwhelmed. We need to be absolutely just magnified in our anger and lower vibe frequency emotions in order for us to realize where it is that they've been hiding, what it is that even caused them in the first place, so that we can acknowledge them, we can work on them, we can feel them so that we can heal them, and then we can integrate them so that we can all move on, leaving that in a state of awareness as part of our journey that has made us into who it is that we are today. Why is that important? Because our pain and our trauma and our suffering is the key aspect for us realizing our true power, our true strength. And without the pain and trauma and suffering in our lives, we would be just who it is that we are in spirit form. Again, may I remind you, we come to Earth because this is Earth school. It is the only place that unconditional love is hard to come by. We come from unconditional love. We come to Earth school to sit in the extreme polarized energies, the darkness, the pain, the trauma, to see if we can find our way back to the unconditional love and light. So is this going to feel good? No. Is it necessary? Yes. Is it going to illuminate for us and shine a bright light on some of the darker force energies within us that we have been repressing and keeping in the back burner and keeping in the closet, that are unconsciously dictating our choices and decisions in our present and now? Yes. And we have to do something about it. So this very quote unquote calm day is filled with a lot of ups and downs, a lot of triggers, a lot of activations that will be playing a very major part over the next couple of days of healing.